Right when everyone thought the gold and silver rally was unstoppable, the floor disappeared. Prices collapsed fast, violently, almost emotionally. If you felt confused, angry, or even betrayed, you're not alone, because this wasn't a normal pullback, and it definitely wasn't random. What you just witnessed looked a lot like 1980, and that similarity is not an accident. Something was planned, something was coordinated, and in the next few minutes, I'm going to explain why this crash happened, why Trump's fingerprints appear all over the timing, and why what looks like the end of the metal story may actually be the most dangerous phase of it. So stay with me, because this isn't really about charts or technical levels. This is about power, timing, psychology, and control. And before we go any further, take 1 second to like this video and subscribe to Elite Capital. Decoded, because if you care about understanding what truly moves money instead of reacting to headlines after it, it's too late. You're exactly where you need to be right now. What shocked people the most wasn't that gold and silver pulled back. It was how they did it. They didn't drift lower, they slammed down. Silver in particular collapsed in a way that felt aggressive and unnatural. One moment the dominant narrative was fear, currency instability, and distrust in the system, and the very next moment panic selling took over. That emotional whiplash is your first major clue. Real crashes don't arrive gently, they arrive with confusion. And confusion is not a side effect, it's the objective. Because confused investors make emotional decisions, and emotional decisions always benefit someone else. To really understand what just happened, you have to go back to 1980. That was a time when gold and silver ran too far, too fast, driven by inflation fear, political chaos, and a breakdown in public trust. When metals reached levels that threatened confidence in the dollar itself, the rules changed overnight. Margin requirements were raised, liquidity was pulled, and prices collapsed. Not because fear disappeared, but because control had to be restored, and fast. Now, fast forward to today, and the setup looks eerily familiar. Gold and silver weren't just rising. They were sending a message to the world that debt levels were unsustainable, currencies were being diluted, and political stability was fragile. And that message became a problem, because when markets expose weaknesses too clearly, the response from power is never subtle. This is where Trump enters the picture. Whether you love him or hate him, one thing is undeniable. He understands optics, leverage, and timing better than most politicians. The moment metals started screaming instability, the narrative shifted. Suddenly, the language changed to strength, deals, calm, confidence, and control. Markets didn't react to data alone, they reacted to theater. While retail investors were still celebrating higher prices and chasing momentum, larger players were already repositioning quietly behind the scenes. Gold and silver didn't crash because the system suddenly became healthy. They crashed because a rising gold price is a public vote of no confidence. A falling gold price sends a very different message, one that says everything is under control, even when it isn't. Silver's collapse was especially brutal because silver is thin, emotional, and highly leveraged, which makes it the perfect pressure valve. When selling pressure is applied, it breaks fast. Not because its value disappeared, but because forced liquidation takes over. Weak hands are shaken out intentionally, and leverage is flushed from the system in hours instead of months. This is exactly why the comparison to 1980 matters so much. Back then, people believed gold was finished after the crash, but it wasn't finished. It went quiet, it went boring, and the real reset happened slowly over years, not days. Crashes like this don't end stories, they change who gets to participate in the next chapter. What feels like betrayal to many investors is actually redistribution. Retail bought the excitement at the top, institutions sold into strength, and once the damage was done, calm slowly returned. Not because truth was restored, but because exhaustion set in, and exhausted investors stopped asking questions. Here's the part most people miss. If gold and silver were truly wrong, if inflation risk was gone, if debt didn't matter anymore, this crash would have come with confidence everywhere else. Strong stocks, strong currencies, strong risk appetite. Instead, what we saw was hesitation, nervous positioning, and defensive behavior across markets. That tells you the fear never left, it just changed its appearance. Trump didn't crash metals because he hates them. The system pushed back because metals were exposing too much too quickly, and the timing aligned perfectly with politics, power, and narrative control. This is how modern markets function, not through pure price discovery, but through managed perception. Now we're entering the most dangerous phase of all. The phase where people swear they'll never touch gold or silver again. The phase where confidence feels restored simply because volatility fades. And that phase is usually where long-term positioning quietly begins. Elite Capital Decoded exists for moments exactly like this, not to hype tops or call bottoms, but to explain why moves happen the way they do, because markets don't move on logic alone, they move on psychology, pressure, and control. Once you understand that, crashes stop feeling random. The real question going forward isn't whether gold or silver bounce tomorrow or next week. The real question is whether the reasons they rose in the first place have actually been solved. Debt didn't disappear, inflation didn't magically reverse, and trust didn't fully return. Only the noise changed. If this really is another 1980-style moment, then what comes next won't be loud or exciting. It will be quiet, slow, and boring, and that's usually where serious money positions itself. Before we wrap up, I want to hear your thoughts. Do you believe this crash was a necessary reset or a deliberate betrayal of investors? Do you think gold and silver already peaked, or was this just the system buying time? Drop your opinion in the comments because different perspectives matter right now. And if this video helped you understand the move instead of reacting emotionally, share it with someone who's still confused. Make sure you're subscribed to Elite Capital Decoded. Stay sharp, stay calm, and remember, markets don't reward emotions. They reward understanding.